Please stay standing for a moment of silence for our military personnel and diplomatic corps worldwide. Thank you. Okay, we'll get right into this. Do we have any communications tonight?
None, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Citizen input, community announcement. If there's anybody like to come forward. Seeing nobody rushing up to us, we'll go into mayor's business. We'll take off a list of things that I've been doing for the last couple of weeks here. Let's see, we had a ribbon cutting back on Thursday, September 6th for Wilderness International. Russ Hall has a business working with underprivileged kids. He's over in the old Oregonian building over by Macon Auto. I also attended the monthly C4 meeting at Clackamas County, and we discussed more about transportation issues for the county and how we're going to address the money part of it. Councilor Hodgson's been part of that, but he was not available the last week or last month. On this Friday, or the 7th, Wilderness International had an open house, which I attended, and also First Friday, which was very well attended, I thought, and Miss Adelines was the cash mob recipient this month. Tuesday, September 14th, I attended an Oregon Passenger Rail open house at Clackamas Community College. They're discussing high-speed rail corridor between Eugene and Vancouver, Portland for sure, and maybe all the way to Vancouver, BC. So there'll be more meetings. I believe I've got another one to go to on September 25th during the afternoon in Salem to discuss it more on a smaller group of people, more of a committee that we're getting started. Wednesday, September 12th, I attended the Adult Center lunch and annual meeting. It was very well attended. On Saturday, September 15th, SnapFit had a barbecue and open house, and it was also, the big day was really the library's 75th birthday party that most of the counselors attended, and we had a chocolate chip cookie tasting contest that we had to judge. It was just really rough that we had to check all those cookies out, and there was like 17 different chocolate chip entries that we got to check out, and believe, if I have it here, Kathy Breedlove had an almond chocolate chip cookie recipe that won first place. It was definitely good. Tuesday, September 18th, which was last night, I attended a Clackamas County Education Summit. It was basically about 250 people that attended over at Hope Church in Clackamas, Sunnyside, to discuss how we can help as community leaders work with the school districts and the school people to try to get things better for our kids and what we can do to help the education of our children. And today, this morning, I attended along with Councilor Hodgson and Councilor Parker, League of Oregon City meeting to discuss issues that the League of Oregon City feels that they'd like to push for this next year to 2 years, and how we as cities and the county can influence and help direct what needs to be done to help our own communities. And the other thing we have coming up, we have the Canby Visioning kickoff meeting on September 25th, on 7 to 9 p.m. And also, we've just been handed a little note here that said there's a neighborhood open house from Canby Utility Board at the 13th Avenue Reservoir rebuilding party, or seismic retrofit that they're going to have from 4:30 to 6:30 to talk to people about what we're doing over there with that project and how it's coming along. And there'll be some sandwiches and drinks will be provided. So everybody show up and see what we do on the Canby Utility Board side. With that,
don't bring swimsuits.
Yeah, no swimsuits. And with that, Rich.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll point out that on that reservoir seismic retrofit neighborhood get-together, they do ask for an RSVP, I'm sure, so they can plan on food and drink.
And hard hats, probably.
Yeah, that could be. I think I reported last time you mentioned the first Friday, I attended that this month. This is, I think, the first one in several months that I have been in town on the first Friday, I guess, evidently. And my wife, we enjoyed the cash mob, and we took care of 3% of our Christmas shopping. More to come. But it was, she bought some nice things. I attended last week, a week ago today, the Adult Center annual meeting, as the mayor mentioned, and I also attended their board meeting, during which we had a discussion, or at least I was shared some concerns and some suggestions from the Adult Center on how, with the changes in the transit service in the community, how it's impacting them. And they had some ideas of how they might be able to help the patrons of the transit service, particularly in the areas of not emergency but urgent transportation to doctors and that kind of thing, and asked if they could meet with our people and talk about that. So I mentioned it to Greg Ellis, our city administrator, that they want to get together, and I guess they have had at least a preliminary meeting where they've met with the transit people, have met with the Adult Center people, and started having a discussion of how they might work together and solve some of the transportation issues for our seniors. And it really boils around the lack of fixed routes anymore for the grocery stores, pharmacies, and such, and it's more on the on-demand, where you call and make a reservation 24 hours in advance, and that doesn't always work for some of the seniors that might have an issue. They need to get to the doctor or to pharmacy. So that's in the hands of our capable staff, both in the city and the transit and the Adult Center. The Adult Center, I should also mention, is doing quite well. They've, I think, over the last couple of years have had a resurgence, if you will, of activity and energy, and I'm sure a lot of it has to do with Kathy Robinson, who is the director, I guess is her title, and they're making some nice changes up there, and they have a lot of involvement in their various classes and exercise classes, and bingo is on a resurgence at the Adult Center. So things are looking very nice there. Last night I attended the City of Canby Parks and Recreation Advisory meeting. The meeting was predominantly to discuss, Dr. Perman was in attendance, and he has a new proposal that he's wanting to float to the city with the lots on the commercial development he built out off of, I want to say off of Pine, but it is Pine, yeah. And they're evidently still having issues with vandalism in the area, vagrancy, I guess, for lack of a better term, along the logging trail, parking on the private road, and other issues like that. And he's does not have a concrete proposal to put in front of anybody at this point, but the discussion was centered around possibly using one or two of those lots out there as a dog park, and also as possible as a parking pickup place for schools because of the busing changes in the schools. He's of the opinion that the kids are going to, and because of congestion of automobiles at Baker Prairie in particular, that the kids will come down to his development and have the parents pick them up in that cul-de-sac, which is a private road. And so he's concerned about that, and so he was floating some ideas with that. He also had his attorney with him, and as soon as Matilda Dees, our liaison to the city staff support to the Parks Department, found the attorney was present, she got quieter because we don't know what that means. I mean, that as I said, nothing concrete was put forward, but some ideas were floated. And he still has the interest it was expressed that possibly we could expand the URD boundary by that much to include that development, so that the URD could fund some of the improvements on that. But as I say, nothing concrete was proposed, but more ideas, and I'm sure we'll hear more from it. And the Parks Board is sending a message back through Matilda, which I think is appropriate, that it really isn't a parks issue. It's a city issue and a police enforcement and code enforcement kind of issue. And it may, at some point, come to become a parks issue if they make a specific request for a park facility. But the things they were talking about last night was really more code enforcement and maybe police activities. So
But that's a private road, so we don't really have control of
that's part of the problem.
that. So if you can't, it's not a code enforcement at this time either, I don't believe, so.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was a wide-ranging conversation
Okay.
without a lot of specific request kinds of things. So
Appreciate that. Sure, we'll hear more about it then.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm sure.
great.
that's all I have to report.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I also attended the Wilderness International Open House. I almost said outhouse. That's not what I meant. I guess I was thinking about the wilderness. And the first Friday. And in addition to the cookie contest, I was at the Music in the Stacks at the library for the celebration and enjoyed a very entertaining bit of Celebrity Jeopardy. That was so fun.
That was definitely cool.
It was a very fun day in Canby with the library celebrations. The last meeting, I did mention an Honor Guard barbecue fundraiser at the American Legion for September 22nd, and that is actually being rescheduled, and when it is finalized, I'll have more information.
So that's been canceled for the 22nd?
It's
Okay.
not going to happen. And the school board meeting is tomorrow night, 6:30 in the Omni Room, and a reminder to some that have been inquiring to me, yes, the school board meetings are also public meetings, so you may attend those. And, one more thing, I did go to the kickoff meeting and then another meeting today for Main Street committees, and I think Jamie's still looking for some more participants. So if you're interested in helping with the Main Street program, then you are to call Jamie down at Economic Development and give her your contact information. That's all I have.
Can I add one thing?
Oh,
I heard it has to do with Main Street, and I heard from one person that said, first of all, we don't have a Main Street, and is it just meaning First Avenue businesses or what? And it's really not. It's downtown.
Downtown core.
Yeah, it's so downtown kind of visioning and planning and things. So it's not just one street that's
Correct.
being.
But we're also kind of using the other side, on 99 also. It's still part of the master plan
Right.
of what we're calling, the visioning for downtown is still is the other side over there on 99 also. So it's not
Right.
just the one First Avenue or Second Avenue or even Third or Fourth. It's a conglomeration
all of
of
the
everything,
downtown
of whatever we
area.
can do to benefit the community as a whole, to
Right.
get businesses to be developed.
Right, thank you.
Correct. That's all I have, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, a flood of things. Also, the wonderful First Friday event. Congratulations to Miss Adelines in their new location. I think it's fantastic that Pam has moved over there. Attended the 9/11 ceremony at the Canby Fire Department. It was very well attended, and there's a new piece added to the memorial, so if you haven't had a chance to swing by there, please do swing and see that. Attended lunch today at the Canby Adult Center, and CAT came up with a number of people, and I want to commend Rich and Greg Ellis and Julie for working on the CAT pieces. They're very, as you guys know, are very excited and passionate about CAT, and so I think it sounds like you guys are on it, and they're very appreciative of that, so thank you. C4, as the mayor said, I missed the last meeting. October coming up here is the retreat. I will not be at that either. I will be in Houston on business, so the mayor will be there as well, representing us. Two things that I know that I think are on the docket, at least for county pieces, are the project about getting city streets or county streets turned over to the city is a big part of the conversation, as well as the Arndt Road connection is a big piece as well. So two very important aspects to Canby that I think are about time are getting recognized, so that's a great thing. Planning Commission front, we had a joint meeting this last Monday with the council and the Planning Commission to review 99. I want to thank Chairman Ewert for pulling that all together and getting us together to talk about that. I believe planning is also looking at some design standard pieces as well to get us prepared for, and looking at the design matrix that and building codes so that we're ready to bring the Planning Commission, that we're ready to bring forward when businesses start to build again, and we can make that a smooth and expedited process. And finally, a thank you to Penny in the library. I thought the cookies were fantastic. I didn't bring a big enough glass of milk with me to eat all 18 cookies, but
How could you compare? If you had milk with one cookie and you didn't have milk with the other cookie, how could?
It cleanses the palate.
as you can see, I'm well versed in cookies, and so I'm able to decipher the
Good,
multitude of flavors that are in a cookie, specifically
Even stopped when
chocolate chip.
When the photographer from the Herald came out, we just kept
She just kept snapping away. She was determined to. Peggy was ready to. It was. I think that was the third shot she took of Randy and I trying to, get us in mid-chew of delicious cookiness.
You finally gave up and took another bite. I didn't.
I did, and that's what the picture ended up in the paper, is me enjoying my cookie. Interesting tidbit, I stuck around and heard the fashion show from 1937, and who knew that you could do so many things with a 25, what was it, a 50-pound bag of flour back in the day, and my grandfather, I called him about it because it intrigued me. He's 95, and he does remember the shirts and the burlap and the bags and the pillowcases from the large sacks of flour from that era. So it was very interesting to see that and be able to have that conversation with my grandfather. So that was pretty neat. So that's my report, sir.
Brian, if you don't get enough cookies, the recipe is on the website.
Oh, I've already got it. Well, thank you. Yes.
It's in the Herald, too.
Yes,
Yeah.
a great celebration, the 75th birthday of the library. And again, I second to thank Penny and her staff and the Friends of the Library for an excellent afternoon. It was really great, a lot of fun. The music was great, and I think people really enjoyed themselves. They really had to clear out an area, and when we said that when we build a new library, we're going to have a bigger room, and everybody applauded because it was interesting that one of the fellows in the music said, I wonder if people come in here, figure they could come in on Saturday afternoon and silently read a book, and here's his band playing and all these people. So anyway, it worked out. If you haven't been down on First Street, I encourage you to mosey on down there, have lunch at one of the businesses, the restaurants there on First between Grant and Elm, and things are coming right along. The paving is pretty much done on the main, so you can drive down the main stretch there and just come down and see what's going on there. Historical Society, they didn't have a board meeting this time, but they have a display now, a special one on Girl Scouts, and so you might want to take that in. And it's open on Thursday through Sunday. I also attended the Wilderness International, and that's an interesting program to help out some of the youth that are having some problems, and it's nice to have them located here in Canby. Councilor Ayers brought up the point about the shopping shuttle. When we did away with fixed routes, there were some problems even with that, because people said I'd get on the bus and I had to ride around the whole thing, and it took me an hour before I'd get back home. So on the shopping shuttle, if you call in the transit and find out the information there, and they'll tell you what days of the week that they are running the shuttle. There's some in the morning and some in the afternoon. They go to Fred Meyer, Safeway, and Cutsworth's, and they drop you off, and I think it's approximately 45 minutes to an hour in the shop, and they only ask that you bring aboard what you can carry, because the driver can't take that off and carry it to your, put it away for you. You've got to do that yourself. But anyway, there's an opportunity they can call it, and this is basically for shopping. We do have the other program, a $1 ride for going to doctor's appointments and so forth. So that's kind of filling in there. I think that pretty much covers We have also I would say, people that have questions on the transit, all they do is call City Hall, they'll transfer that. I had a real estate agent told me a lady had talked to her about some problem with the transit, but she couldn't give me her address or anything. And couldn't give me a lot of information, knew that I was the liaison and wanted me to follow through on it. I don't know what the lady who lives up in the whole village area, and she's wondering why they didn't have a bus system up there. And maybe she wasn't aware that there's this dial-a-ride and so forth. So on these programs we talked about, the dial-a-ride, the shopping shuttle, just call the transit. And the reason why they ask you to call ahead and plan ahead, because they've got to set up a route. And so that if you call in, you can't do it on Monday morning, you got to do it on Friday so they can go ahead and schedule that route and make it more economically feasible. So we're trying to accommodate them, but the thing is, we're asking for you to take the responsibility to call in and find out the details on it. Includes my report.
Well, I think one more time, I believe the rides are going to start costing $1 on October 1st, just to let everybody know
that's
that,
true.
so they don't get
Yeah.
decided to walk up and say, well, it's been free forever. Well, it has been, but because of the problems we've had funding it, they've decided to put $1 per ride in, which is still pretty reasonable, I think. So just let people know
Sure, thank
October
you.
1st, right?
Right,
Okay.
October 1st.
Right.
Oh, one other thing on transit, the shuttle that they ran from the extended hours this year didn't increase the ridership. They thought it would
At the
help.
fair.
At the fair, yeah. The, last year they had 370, last year 470 riders, and this year only had 374. They're hoping that extending it till 11 p.m. would help people who want to go to the rodeo, but I guess seniors don't want to be out after dark.
They rode their horses home.
Yeah. Or we just need a little more visibility of it earlier so that the fair can publicize it a little more too for people to park out there. So.
Can I ask clarification on the $1 per ride that starts October 1st on transit? If someone rides from their home and goes to town, is it $1 each way, or is it $1 round trip?
I think
You
they're
know, to
still
get back
working on
home.
that. You know, I think
I was assuming it was $1 round trip if they,
I
because the
assume
people
that too,
would
but
get off
if
and
it's
go into
$1
Fred
a
Meyer's
ride,
and get
yeah.
back on.
Yeah, they just
Yeah.
I think just a round trip.
It would be good to get
check
that
that.
publicized,
Should be clarified,
whatever
yeah.
the answer is, because
Okay.
it just occurred to me, that could be a $2 trip to town or a
Yeah.
$1 trip to
Yeah.
town.
The thing that is one of the problems that we have is that you pay $1 and go to Oregon City, and then you got to pay more on TriMet. And we're
Yeah.
trying to work something out with them, and
Reciprocal or something.
they're not very receptive to it, get to it. But, and it's just like you ride from home to the transit center here, you don't have to pay again. And they're trying to work out something on the passes and so forth, and there's some information out already, but I think tomorrow we'll finalize some of those things. And those people that go on a systematic basis will be given an opportunity to buy a ticket for the month that we give them a lesser rate.
Mayor?
Yes.
This is probably an appropriate time to say that there isn't a Transit Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow night, starting at 5:30 here for those, and there will be a presentation by some board members from the Adult Center, and I have talked to Kathy about having a meeting after that Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow, so.
Good.
Great. Okay. Oh, well,
That's it.
great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think sometime we should start from this end and
Okay.
go down, because everyone's covered the points that I had on First Friday. Appreciate Tracy stepping up and helping us there with the Main Street program. And right, the Main Street program really is derivative initially of historic preservation and preserving historic downtowns. So it's the entire downtown area, and we could use some more folks. And I, along with the mayor and Councilor Hodson, I attended the League of Cities regional meeting this morning in West Lynn, where they went over their legislative priorities. Perhaps the most amusing one is an effort to try and improve, to their way of thinking, the property tax laws. My comment was that this is only going to make it more complicated and difficult to explain to my constituents issues like compression. And I got a little bit of pushback saying, no, this will actually simplify things. And here in the room were probably the 25, some of the best political minds in the region, and there were several times we had to stop the discussion because people didn't understand how the property tax system worked by the people who are in government. So I said perhaps at some point we may want a major reset by the legislature on something that isn't quite so complicated. So, and that's it for me. Thanks.
I think we spent an hour on that, and I don't think we came to a conclusion, did we?
We barely reached,
Very touched
back
it.
to my Yogi Berra quote, I'm not sure we even agreed on the facts. So.
I think you're correct. Yeah, I've got one more here. Since the school district has taken the city, the school buses out of the city area within a mile or a mile and a half of the schools, I just want to say that Jerry Nelson and staff, Greg working with them to work through everything to come up with more sidewalks or painted crosswalks and more signage out there to make sure that people know that the children are out there on the streets. There's some areas there's no sidewalks. You have to really be careful. And I know that we've also talked about other extra police protection in the school zone. So, if you get a ticket, I think you're on your own on that one. I'm not going to feel sorry for you because it's going to be a school zone and the kids are what I've got to keep safe. So, you want to...
Well, yeah, in fact, what I just handed out, Mayor, was some of the stuff as of September 11th, actually, that the Public Works have been doing in terms of crosswalks, painting, or newly added crosswalks, a lot of them. You'll see new lights on Ivy. The school zone has been extended on Ivy, so be a little careful there because it's come back this way quite a bit. And right now, I have got Jerry Nelzine and Dr. Steech direct line. I'm out of the middle because they're talking a lot.
Right.
So the city has really, I think, stepped up, and we are trying to cooperate as much as possible.
Appreciate you coordinating that.
It's amazing the materials you're using and the size, the way you're doing it. It really stands out. There's no question about it when you come upon a crosswalk now. I think it's great.
Jerry doing a good job,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you to Jerry, and our Public Works team rocks. That as a cyclist, it feels a little bit better having those lines clearly drawn. And the other day I saw them out there at Township and Ivy, putting in some more. And it's been an interesting transition moving away from buses, but I've seen neighborhoods stepping up. I've seen parents helping other parents walk their kids to school. I've even seen some volunteer street crossing people. So it's an interesting response to a situation. So sometimes unfortunate choices can lead to community building, and I'm really proud of the way this community stepped up, but especially to Jerry and his crew. They've done some good work for
I
us.
think I did have a comment from Superintendent Steech that he really appreciates Jerry. The hotline basically, it's like if he sees something, Jerry's out there that same day, or just as quick as he can get there. Sometimes it's within an hour or so to try to take care of the problem and get things going. So
I've told Jerry it doesn't need to come through me, so unless he wants you to build a building, go ahead and do it. So
as long as it's paint, we're going to do it.
paint we can do. So.
Mr. Mayor, I move we pass the consent agenda, approval of minutes of September 5th, 2012, City Council regular meeting.
Second.
Got moved by Councilor Daniels, second by Councilor Hodson to approve the consent agenda, approval of the minutes of September 5th, 2012 City Council regular meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 5-0.
Things.
Throwing pins at you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Throwing things.
Sorry about that. Okay, we'll move into resolutions.
The first item we have is Resolution 1141. This is authorizing the issuance and negotiated sale of full faith and credit and refunding obligations for the purpose of financing capital improvements and refund certain outstanding obligations of the city in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $14,900,000, designating an authorized representative, underwriter, and special counsel, authorizing appointment of a financial advisor, authorizing execution and delivery of a financing agreement and an escrow agreement, authorizing an IGA with the Canby Urban Renewal Agency, and related matters. And Greg Ellis will be
I was just
presenting.
going to say, we're going to have Greg explain that.
Is that the longest motion we've ever had?
Well, I explained a little bit of this last week in that this is a combined issue, and it's going to have the projects that were approved on, was it the 22nd of August? Okay, so it's going to have library, it's going to have renovation of the old library, it's going to have renovation of City Hall, and it's going to have the extension of Sequoia to 13th. But as I explained last week, we got a call, or Carol Samuels from Seattle Northwest and Sue Ingalls were talking, and we found out that we could do a refund of,
Refi.
Refi.
well, it's called they call it refunding or refinancing of
Oh,
bonds.
refunding,
Yeah.
not a refund.
We don't get a refund. Oh.
But
They call it
analogous to
It's a
what people would think of as combining a first and second mortgage.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so what is happening, we've got two loans, basically, or bonds, and they're through Oregon Business. And so what we're doing is we can save, as the staff report says, we can save almost $180,000. That's net over the life of these bonds. And the part I like about it doesn't extend the bonds, the life of the bonds. So they're paid off at the same time as they originally were, a savings of $180,000. And so we're rolling that all into one, because then you don't have issuance costs on 3 different issues. You don't have bond attorney costs on 3 issues. There's all kinds of things. So we're rolling it into one issue. And the library et al. Is $8.5 million. The Sequoia, the 13th, is $4.2. And this refunding or refinancing, if you want to call it, is $2.2, which comes to $14.9. So I think it's a good thing to do in terms of, it makes it a little more complicated. On our end, we had I think an hour and a half, 2-hour phone conference this afternoon, and it was all the financial people, the financial team, she called it, and we're on a conference call, and you got way too many people on the line. But anyway, that's, you get all that ironed out and we move forward. So I'm asking the council to approve this. It's a 14.9, not to exceed, and we will continue moving. And I'm doing that because we've got extremely low rates right now, and it's a pretty good time to be selling bonds, and especially towards the end of the year. I found this out today. A lot of investors will be looking at tax advantages for next year. So November and December, I was told, is really a good time to be looking at a sale.
Good call.
Greg, let me, I don't have the information in front of me on the Sequoia extension, but that will fully fund what we have in mind in terms of punching that out to 13.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's a bridge over that rail, and yep.
Told you, Buzz. We're going to do it.
So,
Well,
no, it's
I think this is a great move. I mean, we've authorized the library and the refurbishing of the other facilities, and it is a good time. I mean, interest rates are at historic lows, and it's a good time to seal it up. And I hadn't thought about until you mentioned the other day about the refunding of those 2 other bonds, but it makes so much sense if we can save $180,000 and not extend our payment date. I mean, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
it's a
a
good time to do
no-brainer.
it.
And I would have had to have swallowed twice on that, Greg, if this would have extended the purchase price, because after the discussion we've had with the fire chief and that sort of thing, I'm really committed for us trying to to buy back and keep the district in as short a duration as possible. So I appreciate, I don't know how you did that, but I appreciate you doing
Well,
that.
Sue and Carol Samuels, and it would just
Well,
happen, so.
It's a creature of the times, you know, I mean, it is. We're bonding and borrowing, whether it's for a home or any solid asset like a home or bonds. The rates are very low. And as you said about the last quarter of the year, a lot of people are reallocating, readjusting their investment portfolios. And particularly, I'm speaking of investors, and they're looking to. There's people that will be moving out of government bonds and buying bonds like this that have a solid backing, because they can earn 300 to 350 basis points more than they can get out of their money markets or treasury bonds. So it's a perfect time.
And just to let you know also, last year we did this for the bond we sold in July of last year, but we'll be going out and doing a feasibility for the Urban Renewal District. And it's not just that I want to do it, it's a good idea to do it, but it's going to be required as part of the bond sale to make sure that the money's there. So it's a feasibility study, it's a good idea. The investors look at it, the underwriters look at it, and it's something I think we need to do. So anyway, we're in the process of that. You'll see what that feasibility study says, and I'll bring that to you as soon as it's done. I hope it's done by mid-October. And on the October 3rd, you'll be seeing an IGA between Urban Renewal District and the City of Canby. And then on October 10th, you'll see the same thing over again, the same IGA between the Urban Renewal District and the city. So both bodies have to approve the IGA,
Okay.
an agreement between the city and the Urban Renewal District.
Well, I guess I was expecting you would have the what did you call it, the feasibility study, because I mean that's part of due diligence, and no one's going to lend this much money without knowing what the capacity is for repayment.
That's what.
And that's what will set the interest rate. The higher the risk, the higher the interest rate. The lower the risk, the lower the interest rate. So.
And we've always been pretty conservative on the numbers there too, so they should definitely fall where we need them to, because we've always said, you know, this is all we're going to have, and if it's more, we're still working off the lower number for our bonding part of that.
Right.
And I would expect that our interest rate will be among the lower ones in the metro area. At least I recall when we sold the bonds for the police station, we were, as I recall, 170 basis points lower than some bonds that were sold at the same time in the city of Portland.
Yeah, with the same rating.
With the same rating.
Yeah, we had an A2 rating, which is a good rating.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we had different, yeah, you're right, for some reason got lower.
It's even though the rating may be there, from the investor's point of view, the risk